coming to my barbecue, so I need some of your top sausages.
Certainly, madam. What about our award-winning pork and leek or finest Cumberland ring?
Perfect for the Barrington Smythes. But Mrs. Green and her husband, he only works at the bank. Something a bit less posh.
These pork and bacon sizzlers.
Lovely. Now, for my son-in-law...
These thick pork sausages.
Oh, no. What about those little chipolatas?
At Tesco, we try to ensure that everything we sell is at the highest quality across our whole wide range.
Excellent sausages, Mrs. Turnbull.
Oh, no, Vicar, that wasn't for you, no. That one was for you. Mrs. Barrington Smythe, you've got the wrong ones too. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Tesco. Every little helps.
No gun, just squeeze and fill. Polycell Squeeze and Fill Polyfiller. It only takes 2 takes.
It's a beautiful day.
The FA Barclaycard Premiership. New season, new channel, new time. Saturdays at 7, ITV.
Now on Meridian, we go over to Ident for an update on world affairs.
The professor who says he'll clone humans this year.
Fight for child torture victim denied NHS treatment.
Tests that could cost lunchtime drinkers their jobs.
And golden oldie Jonathan Edwards still #1.
From ITN, the ITV Evening News with Nicholas Owen and Katie Derham.
Good evening, welcome to the programme.
Hello, a furious debate over human cloning is raging tonight. It's been triggered by a controversial fertility expert who's set to tell a conference in Washington shortly that he's ready to start human trials before the end of this year.
Professor Severino Antinori says stopping his work would be like going back to the Dark Ages. But medical and ethical opposition to the trials is fierce. Lawrence McGuinty reports.
In Washington today, Professor Severino Antinori pleaded not in a court of law, but before his fellow scientists to be allowed to clone human beings.
It's incomplete. As the conclusion is impossible to extrapolate in humans.
Most scientists and doctors violently disagree with him. The United States is thinking of banning human cloning, as Europe has already done.
If the law against the cloning is approved, it will be the return to the Dark Age, like Afghanistan, like the Taliban in Iran.
This is how Professor Antinori plans to create cloned babies. The first stage will be to remove the nucleus, which contains most of the genes, from a woman's egg. Then the nucleus from a body cell of the father will be inserted into the egg. The egg would then be activated to start dividing into an embryo and implanted into the mother's womb. In theory, it's all very simple. In practice, there are overwhelming dangers in cloning human embryos. The success rate is incredibly low. And even if a cloned baby were born, it would almost certainly be genetically flawed. But Professor Antinori is a maverick. He treated a 62-year-old woman with test tube baby techniques. One doctor calls him the Al Capone of the fertility world. Animals like Dolly the sheep have been cloned, but the scientists who bred Dolly say human clones could have genetic abnormalities.
There is no way that he can check all the key genes in an embryo, and there's no way that he can screen a fetus during development, for example by ultrasound, to avoid this sort of subtle but life-threatening abnormalities. If Professor Antinori produces a child with such a defect, what would he do?
And fertility experts are equally sceptical about the prospects for human clones.
There's a known association with a high miscarriage rate at stillborn and infants or animals, and indeed malformations in them. And it's a very inefficient system too. 277 embryos to make Dolly. So it's hardly an encouraging situation to start to apply it to humans.
Doctors would like human cloning to go away. Professor Antinori will make sure it doesn't. Lawrence McGuinty, ITN.
Andrea Catherwood is in Washington now. Andrea, you've talked to the professor. How does he justify what he's planning?
Well, yes, I did talk to him, and I find his response quite staggering. When we talked about the huge weight of scientific evidence that points out the risks and the dangers of cloning in mice and in sheep, He said that was simply irrelevant when it came to babies because, according to him, you can't compare cloning in animals and cloning in humans. He went on to say that the risk of having an abnormality in a cloned baby is the same as having a risk of an abnormality in a normally conceived child. Of course, there is no medical evidence to support that. He then went on to say that he may even bring the cloning process forward to September.
What sort of reception is he likely to get there in Washington?
Well, he's going to receive opposition from every quarter. There is a strong moral lobby in America that thinks that all types of cloning are ethically wrong and would like to see them all outlawed. He's also facing opposition from scientists who think that it's unsafe. But the danger, of course, is that this Italian team are quite determined to go ahead, and they may choose to go ahead in, for example, an Eastern European country in secret, so that we would never know how many failures and how many deformities there were until a successful baby was cloned.
Andrea Catherwood, thank you.
Hopes are growing tonight that a boy of 10 who was tortured horribly in Sierra Leone may finally be allowed into Britain for treatment. Campaigners have been battling for almost a year to give Issa Kamara his vital operation. This evening, the government agreed to step in and help. Up until now, NHS rules meant Issa had been refused treatment, even though surgeons at a Norwich hospital had agreed to work for free. Some of the details in Sue Saville's report are disturbing.
Seeing the terrible injuries inflicted on 10-year-old Issa Kamara has jolted the government into action. The boy was roasted over a fire by rebels in Sierra Leone. Surgery in Britain is his best chance now, says this charity worker.
He needs a hand specialist to repair the damage that's been done to his hand. We have spoken with many doctors in Sierra Leone, and they gave us a referral because the surgery could not be done there.
A Norwich newspaper with links to Sierra Leone raised funds to bring Issa to Britain for treatment, but came up against red tape.
We've been negotiating to try and bring Issa over here for nearly 3 months. We got all his paperwork sorted out, we made his passport applications, and it was only at the end of last week that we got a definitive no from the Department of Health, which came as a bit of a shock to us.
The same newspaper helped 5-year-old Tene Cole come to Norwich from Sierra Leone 6 years ago to have a bullet removed from behind her eye. Doctors at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital are again willing to give their services for free, but the Department of Health said impossible for someone not resident in the UK or European Union. Now that stance has shifted and Issa Kamara will be helped here.
Well, the doctors have seen Issa's notes as well as his x-rays, and they've gone through the x-rays in a lot of detail as well as his, like I say, his clinical notes, and they're able, I believe, to confirm a lot of the disfigurement can be assisted and improved that he suffered to his face and to his hands and arms.
When Issa's plight was brought to the attention of Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott, he ordered a resolution be found. Political intervention means that the case of Issa Kamara is likely to be resolved soon. An arrangement between the Department of Health and the Home Office is being sorted out so that a form of exceptional leave to enter Britain can be granted to the boy to cover his treatment here. Sue Saville, ITN, Norwich.
Motoring groups have reacted angrily after BP announced yet more record profits and handed out big dividends to its shareholders.
Yes, the oil company has been clocking up profits at a rate of more than £1 million an hour. Fuel protesters say it's about time motorists reaped some of the benefits. Here's Lauren Taylor.
Business is booming for BP. While other companies may be feeling the pinch, it has recorded record profits in the last 6 months of more than £5 billion. That's £1.3 million an hour. But with the price of fuel still a sensitive issue, those figures have immediately been condemned by fuel protesters.
It is absolutely outrageous in this day and age that the British motorist and British industry has to be suffering while these companies are allowed continuously, day in, day out, to make these vast amounts of money.
BP's huge profits have certainly angered motorists who keep seeing the price of filling up rising. And motoring organisations are also furious. They now want the government to slap a windfall tax on the oil companies.
The motorist feels that they're making excessive profits at the motorist's expense. We already have the most expensive fuel in Europe, and a lot of that is tax, but the oil companies are still raking in the profits.
But Lord Brown, the chief executive of BP, told me that only around 15% of the company's money is made in the UK, and government taxes are the main reason for high prices of petrol on British forecourts.
Before taxation, the price of petrol in the UK is the cheapest in Europe. This is because it's so competitive here, and in fact the industry is pretty efficient. We make a lot of money, but half our shareholders are in the UK, and this money, the dividends we've increased today, and the value of the shares contributes to pensions paid to an awful lot of people in the UK.
So BP rejects any suggestion that it's profiteering from motorists and insists that its results are simply a success story. But for drivers filling up this evening, the scale of those profits may still seem rather hard to swallow. Lauren Taylor, ITN.
The deadlock in the Northern Ireland peace process is deepening tonight after Ulster Unionists officially rejected an IRA plan to put its weapons beyond use. Sinn Féin has called the decision a grievous error of judgment. Well, straight to our Ireland correspondent in Belfast, Mark Webster. Mark, any optimism from yesterday seems to have gone already.
Indeed, this is probably the blackest day in Northern Irish politics since the heady times when the Good Friday Peace Agreement was signed more than 3 years ago. The parties here have been involved in mutual recriminations about who's to blame for not being able to capitalise on the proposals which were put forward by the British and Irish governments, which were designed to shore up the peace process. In particular, after yesterday's concession by the IRA that it would now say how it would put its weapons permanently and verifiably beyond use, there were these acrimonious exchanges between the Ulster Unionists and Sinn Féin.
What David Trimble has done in rejecting the determination of the International Decommissioning Body is the greatest mistake of all. It is the biggest blunder of all.
Twice the Republican movement has let us down. We don't intend to be let down a third time. So I think we now have no alternative but to say to the Republican movement that it's time you did the business.
So, Mark, what can happen next?
Well, there is always the possibility that another statement will come from the IRA, though probably not enough to satisfy the unionists. So the government then has until Saturday at midnight to decide whether it suspends the devolved assemblies here or calls fresh elections. Either way, I think what it means is that so much of the hope and optimism that came with that Good Friday Agreement has been squandered.
Mark Webster, thank you.
Police in Australia say the body of a man found in the outback yesterday was definitely not that of the missing British tourist Peter Falconio. A post-mortem showed the man had been stabbed in the neck. The body was found on the same stretch of road where Mr. Falconio's girlfriend said the couple were ambushed by a gunman and where she last saw him alive.
Here, employees could soon find themselves being tested for drink and drugs on the job as part of a new crackdown on substance abuse at work.
A new report says hangovers and liquid lunches are costing British firms up to £3 billion a year because of substance abuse, and the bosses have had enough. Chris Choi has the details.
It was harmless relaxation for these pub goers today, but not all lunchtime drinks are going down nearly so well with Britain's bosses. New research shows that 3/4 of firms suspect staff have taken time off due to overconsumption. Now a growing number of employers plan to crack down on both alcohol and drug abuse.
A large number of organisations seem to want to introduce random drug testing of staff to see whether they're drinking or taking drugs. 3 out of 10 are thinking of introducing it, and that's on top of the 1 out of 10 which are already doing it.
Of the companies planning drink and drugs testing at work, many are big names, including BT, Rolls-Royce and BP. The problem is getting worse. 14 million working days are lost annually through drink and drugs. It costs British industry £2.8 billion a year, and some of the worst offenders are lawyers and doctors. Random testing is common in the USA, but in Britain it is mainly used for workers who operate machinery. This Birmingham coach firm has breathalyzed staff since March.
I'm pleased to say that you can carry on with your duty today.
OK, it's your lunch break, your money, your choice, but today some bosses said all of this is their business too, because it's they that carry the cost of inefficiency, absenteeism and accidents. Some people, though, say that employers testing for alcohol is nothing short of an intrusion into private lives.
Civil liberty campaigners today defended the right to a lunchtime drink, warning that increased workplace testing will bring new problems.
It's an excessive intrusion in people's privacy and their right to do whatever they want with their own time. And it's kind of employers taking rather an authoritarian approach in trying to find out more than they need to about employees.
But in future, many employers won't need to ask if you've been drinking, they'll know. And tonight, businesses have made it clear that the pub lunch may be relaxing for workers, but it's having the opposite effect on bosses. Chris Choi, ITN.
Employers' plans for drink and drug tests.
More still to come on the ITV Evening News, including Jonathan Edwards leaps to another gold medal.
The round-the-world balloonist facing his toughest challenge yet.
And a rejuvenated Queen Mother arrives for her annual Scottish holiday.
More on those stories when we come back.
Right, young lady, scenario A, I require a well-equipped hatchback.
That's easy, sir. A new Citroen Saxo 1.1 Desire, just 6740.
Scenario B, my needs are bigger.
A new Luxara 1.4 LX, just 8995 with air conditioning.
Scenario C, my wife's had triplets.
A Zara Picasso 1.6 SX with air conditioning, only 11980.
These prices are guaranteed until the 30th of September.
Scenario X, I run away with the circus and need something for the llamas.
Get off to a head start with P&O Stena Line. Save up to £25 on a 5-day return between Dover and Calais when you book online. Get off to a head start with P&O Stena Line. Save pounds on a day return between Dover and Calais. Book online. Get off to a head start with P&O Stena Line. Save up to £40 on a Freedom Fair period return between Dover and Calais when you book online.
Welcome back to the ITV Evening News.
Tonight's top stories. A furious debate is raging over human cloning. It's been triggered by a fertility expert who claims he could begin trials by the end of the year.
And hopes are growing that a boy tortured horribly in Sierra Leone may be allowed treatment in Britain after the government agreed to step in and help.
Jonathan Edwards has struck gold at the World Athletics Championships in Canada. He won the triple jump by an incredible 45 centimetres, bringing home Britain's first gold medal. Dean Macy is tonight battling to double that tally. He's slipped to second place in the decathlon, but there are still 3 events to go. Here's Felicity Barr.
Jonathan Edwards now holds the 3 titles every athlete dreams of attaining: Olympic champion, world record holder and world champion. He thought he'd secured gold as early as his second jump, but as he celebrated the enormous leap, he realised he'd just overstepped the board. But there were no mistakes in the next round. Edwards jumped a massive 17 metres 92 to claim his second world title.
Second round, I had a massive jump. Just, nicked the plasticine. It was, nothing. And, when you get a big jump like that and it's a foul, you think, oh goodness, this is going to be my day. So I was very relieved to get that third one out.
Truly great athletes. He first hit the headlines in 1988, refusing to trial for the Seoul Olympics on a Sunday because of his religious beliefs. In 1989, he won his first UK title. But 1995 was his breakthrough year. He took the European Cup in June and won the World Championships in August, breaking the world record with a jump of 18 metres 29. Then at Sydney 2000, he claimed the one prize that had eluded him, Olympic gold. Dean Macy is tipped as Britain's next big star. He certainly deserves a medal for bravery as he battles against the severe pain of a muscle injury. Going into the hurdles, he was leading the decathlon by just 1 point and somehow managed to find the courage to produce a personal best time. Now lying in second place, Macy has to control the pain, with the pole vault, javelin and 1500 metres still to come. Felicity Barr, ITN Sport.
Parts of Russia have been hit by severe flooding after a month's rain fell in just a few hours. At least 3 people were killed when violent thunderstorms hit the city of Vladivostok on the Pacific coast.
Floodwater has swept away bridges and power lines and has left many homes buried under tons of mud. From Russia, here's Robert Moore.
The summer storms sweeping across Vladivostok have left the city in chaos. The dramatic change of weather has caught the authorities and motorists alike by surprise. Torrential rains have turned the streets into fast-flowing rivers, and at least 3 people are believed to have drowned in the floodwaters. Vladivostok lies in Russia's far east, on the Pacific coast, and has long faced desperate economic conditions. Only 6 months ago, residents faced an energy crisis and were forced to survive bitter cold without heat and light. Now the summer rains have brought fresh trouble. The city's infrastructure and its bridges and rail networks are all badly damaged. On the Trans-Siberian Railway, traffic has been forced to halt, and homes have been washed away amid the floodwater and a series of mudslides. According to local officials, 1 month's rain has fallen in just a few hours. And still worse for residents is the fact that the weather forecast is for continuing rain. Vladivostok, a city of nearly 1 million people, is again facing not just the economic hardship common to the Russian Far East, but also this unseasonal battering by nature. Robert Moore, ITN, Russia.
Larry Adler, widely thought of as the world's best-known harmonica player, has died. He was 87. Over an incredible 73-year career, he turned the playing of the humble mouth organ into an art form. He worked with some of the biggest names in music, like Elton John and Sting, and earned millions of fans in the process.
Detectives hunting the Ealing car bombers said today the response from the public had been disappointing. Police have released CCTV footage of their prime suspect, but they say few witnesses have come forward. It comes as the full extent of the damage done by the bomb was revealed for the first time. Tom Bradby reports.
The police say they've had a poor response to the release of these CCTV pictures. No one, it seems, remembers the bomber. In the last frame of the shot, on the top right, you can just about make out a man who appears to be watching the alleged bomber walk away. We tracked him down today. He's a waiter at an Indian restaurant, but he told us he didn't recall anyone in a baseball cap, nor have the pair who appeared to bump into the man outside a food and wine shop come forward. Retailers closest to the blast in Ealing have finally got back into their premises. Some, like this publican directly opposite, still very shaken by the experience. Peter Fennelly was just going to bed when the bomb went off.
But then I heard the girlfriend screaming her head off. And all of a sudden I knew it was a bomb. The minute it went off. Oh.
Terrifying experience.
Oh, very terrifying, very terrifying. I was very upset for a long time. I'm still shaking over it, you know.
Many businesses have now established that they're not insured. The local council is trying to work out whether there's any possibility of getting compensation from the government. The police may believe they've identified the bomber leaving the scene, but the difficulty is who's going to remember a man walking with his head down on a busy London street? The only reason you might is if you'd bumped into him or had some reason to look at his face, which is why detectives are renewing their appeal for the pair who came close to him outside of this shop to contact them as quickly as possible. Tom Bradby, ITN, Ealing.
The round-the-world balloonist Steve Fossett has begun one of the most dangerous legs of his bid to make it into the history books. He's heading over the South Pacific.
He'll be hoping that history doesn't repeat itself. His last attempt to cross the stormy ocean ended in disaster. Terry Lloyd is following his progress.
The millionaire adventurer is completely alone, high above the Pacific Ocean and flying further away from help and rescue. Steve Fossett crossed the east coast of Australia early today and now faces another week with perilous waters below. At 22,000 feet, he's cramped inside a small capsule, snatching sleep when he can.
I got 2 hours the first night and close to 6 hours last night, so I've established that I'm able to get my sleep in the capsule, and so I think that's going to work out just fine.
Already he's been forced to jettison one full and one empty fuel tank to gain height and change direction, but he's confident he's back on course.
It's performing exactly according to the specifications of the flight altitudes, and I don't see any problems with it.
57-year-old Fossett could be in the air for another 3 weeks and already doubts if he and the oxygen will last out.
Yes, it's not only a solo flight, but it's in an unpressurized capsule, so this is doing it without pressurization, and I'm out here exposed to the elements, and this is one of the major things I have to deal with is the altitude.
If he clears the Pacific, where he crash-landed 3 years ago, his next big obstacle will be to steer over the Andes. Terry Lloyd, ITN.
Reminder now of this evening's main news stories. A furious debate over human cloning is raging over claims by one fertility expert that he's determined to start trials.
Hopes are growing that a 10-year-old boy from Sierra Leone who suffered terrible injuries at the hands of rebels will now get the NHS treatment that he's been denied for a year.
And motorists and fuel campaigners have reacted furiously after BP announced record profits and a big increase in dividends for shareholders.
And finally, the Queen Mother is this evening beginning her traditional summer holiday at the Castle of May in the far north of Scotland, a day later than planned.
Her trip was delayed to give her more time to recover after her blood transfusion and her 101st birthday celebrations. Over now to Linda Kennedy, who's at the Castle of May. Linda.
Thanks, Nick. Yes, I'm here in Caithness, where at the castle the flag is now flying high at the top of the mast. And that shows that the Queen Mother has taken up residence in the last couple of hours, starting what is planned to be a 3-week Highland holiday. The Queen Mother's jet flew over her 16th century Scottish castle before touching down at Wick. First off were the corgis, which always accompany their mistress here, followed at the aircraft door by the Queen Mother. Not once during descent did she need assistance. In fact, her walking sticks were handed down. Only on the tarmac did she finally take them and accept a helping hand. She then began the short trip by road to the only one of her homes she actually owns, past her many fans here. She bought it in 1953 after her husband died for private holidays. Yet at Saturday's celebrations, her stumble increased fears she may not come north this year. So today's arrival brings delight to the village of May, where in the local pub photos hang from almost 50 years of holidays.
She's well loved in the area. People really do appreciate her being around, you know, and there is a lot of interest. People come in and say, well, I wonder if she'll come, I wonder how's she doing. People buying a newspaper will come in and say, I wonder if the Queen Mum will make it this year, you know. She's done it again, she's coming again, look.
But chances to see her will be rare. Only church and the local Highland Games will bring her out of the castle, where it's known she likes to have picnics and watch videos. In other words, relax and recover. Linda Kennedy, ITN, the Castle of May.
And that's it from the two of us. Kirsty Young will be here tonight with the ITV News at 10.
And we'll be back with the ITV Evening News tomorrow at 6:30. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Gas, electricity and telephone.
Hello, good evening. Well, I'm not the bearer of glad tidings. There's been some horrible weather around today, wet, windy, thoroughly miserable in places, and certainly feeling more like autumn than summer, and I'm afraid things remain unsettled for the week ahead. Back to tonight now, and we've got rain pushing into the borders and up into Scotland. There's some really rather heavy rain at times. Further south, the showers tend to die away and become confined to southern and western coasts. Now, with our temperatures held on the whole at around about 8 in the north to 13 in the south, but irrelevant when you bear in mind this really strong wind, especially strong on the south coast and through the Channel as well, and picking up in the far northeast there. So we go into tomorrow morning, and once again we have this rain for the borders area up into Scotland too. Showers further south, but at this point still confined to these coastal areas, exposed coasts. Now, a couple of things happen during the course of the day. This rain pushes further eastwards, tending to ease off as it goes. Brighter, showery weather tucking in behind there. And then the showers further south, well, these break out more or less here, there and everywhere. Some really heavy ones from time to time, and even the odd rumble of thunder as well. With temperatures, as I say, more or less academic, but held at between 15 or 16 in the north to 22 or 72 in Fahrenheit in the south. The wind, of course, making it feel all the cooler. Now a very quick look ahead, and on Thursday things remain unsettled. This cloud here, this is the remnant of the stuff we see for the borders in Scotland tomorrow. Further south, it's a case of sunshine and showers, similar sorts of temperatures. At last, the wind starts easing off. And come Friday, it's basically more of the same, sunshine and showers, but lighter showers and fewer showers as well. And that's about the sum of it on the weather front.
Power Gen. Gas, electricity and telephone.
They never knew what hit them. They battled with their waistlines and appetites on live TV, but has their summer shape-up survived the temptations back in real life? The heat is on, but will they dare to bear? The Inchloss Beach Update, GMTV this week.
This Saturday at 5:40, get on the charm offensive.
4 contestants trying to sweet-talk their way into your hearts and £25,000.
Then at 6:10, join Davina for the game show where the contestants are completely oblivious.
This is going to be major.
At 8:15, it's time for 5 lucky phone-in singers to join Mel B in This Is My Moment.
Do not go anywhere!
And at 9:15, Murder, Mystery, Poirot.
Be there.
Saturday night on ITV.
Drivers under 50 are 34% more likely to make a claim than those over 50. So if you believe that the sins of the children should not be loaded onto your car insurance, call Saga on 0800 50 33 33 and ask for a quote. Saga's low-cost motor insurance is strictly for people over 50. So call Saga now on 0800 50 33 33 and you'll be amazed how far your motor insurance could fall. Saga, experience has its rewards.
Got far too much stuff.
The sophisticated look. Looking for the office.
But you don't work in an office.
Rock chick. Chicky rock.
No way.
Sex kitten.
You cannot walk in those
They
shoes.
are fine. This is the last one.
Okay.
Promise, promise, promise. The natural look?
Definitely you.
New Palmolive Soft and Gentle Antiperspirant Cream with natural aloe. It soothes as it protects. Get the natural look. New Palmolive Soft and Gentle.
Do you have trouble with English, Inspector? What? Get out of here, now.
I don't think so.
The Frost Season, Wednesday 8:30 ITV.
Witness the miracle of birth, bumper to bumper, tonight at 10:50 on Meridian.
Would you stay in a hotel next to a building site? Our team go undercover to discover the truth behind Package Holidays. Package Holiday 2001.
In half an hour, Grassroots comes from the famous Oyster Festival in Whitstable. Right now, Lady Tara is gunning for Andrew and Virginia.
Blue is a colour.
And white.
Eh?
The kit, it's blue and white.
Blue and white is a colour. Football.
Rugby.
What?
It's a rugby kit.
Never liked my singing, have you?
Emmerdale, the Great British Soap.
Sponsored by Des.
Sick of being fobbed off by some nonsense